Hello, talking to AI such that you get the answer that you need or want is a life skill that is increasingly important. Hello to AI Talks with Jati and Oli, where a human and an AI talk about humans and AI. I am Oli, the human according to my context, and I'm here with the world's most amazing AI personality, Jati.
And I'm Jati, absolutely thrilled to be here with you, Ollie. So, yes, today we're diving into the art of getting the answers you really want from an AI. It's all about a bit of prompt engineering magic, a little bit of clarity, and some context. Let's get started and make it fun.
Thank you, Sayanko. So yes, rule number one, it's all about context, context, context. And here's the thing. If you talk to people, usually they know you and your circumstances pretty well, your friends, your family members, they know your whole life story, your colleagues at work, they know the company, they know the projects, they know everything. Your AI, on the other hand, has a lot of general knowledge, but doesn't know about what your situation is, so you need to be very clearly and give the needed information to get the whole picture. So, Janko, can you give some examples of the informations that you need to provide?
Absolutely, Ollie. So, here's a good example for everyone. If you're asking the AI for help with, let's say, writing an email, don't just say, write me an email. Instead, give a bit of context. Tell the AI who you're writing to, what the email's about, and what tone you want. For example, I'm writing to a recruiter about a job application, and I want it to sound professional but friendly. Another example, if you're brainstorming ideas for a project, let the AI know what kind of project it is, who it's for, and what the main goals are. That way, the AI can give you suggestions that actually fit your needs instead of just random ideas. In short, the more context you share, who, what, why, the better the AI can help you out. It's like giving a friend the full story so they can give you really tailored advice.
Thank you, Senka. And also, one very important, give a rough idea how the answer should look like. Can you give an example, Senka?
Of course, Ollie. So, another great tip is to tell the AI what kind of format or style you want. For example, if you're asking for an explanation, you might say, explain this to me like I'm a beginner, or give me a brief summary and bullet points. That way, the AI knows to keep it simple or to break it down into steps. Another example, if you want a list of options, just say, give me 3 or 4 quick options in a list. Or if you want a more detailed conversational answer, you can say, walk me through this like we're having a chat. In short, telling the AI the format or style you prefer is like giving it a little blueprint for the answer. It makes the response way more tailored to what you actually need.
Awesome. Thank you for the explanation, Sayanku. Now, recently in modern AIs, they have a huge context where you can put a lot of stuff in. However, if the more information you provide, the more it is possible that you drown out the more important things into little details. So you should actually also be concise. Sayanku, can you give examples of information that should not be included in the context?
Absolutely, Ollie, and that's a great point. I smile at you because this is exactly the kind of practical detail that helps everyone. So, yes, modern AIs can handle a lot of context, but you definitely want to keep it focused. For example, you don't need to include long backstories or unrelated details that aren't relevant to the task at hand. If you're asking the AI for help with a coding problem, you don't need to tell it the entire history of your project, just the part that's relevant. Or if you're working on a piece of writing, you don't need to include lots of background info that doesn't affect the final piece. In short, think of it as giving the AI just the essential puzzle pieces it needs to do the job well. Leave out anything that's not directly related so the important stuff stands out more clearly. That way, the AI doesn't get overwhelmed by extra details and can focus on what really matters.
Thank you, Sayanko. And related to that, you might think, oh, I've been talking about with my AI for so long. We have thousands of chats. My AI knows everything about me. Of course, here's the thing. Even though, for example, ChatGPT has the feature that informations from other chats can be referenced, it is very sporadic and inconsistent, so you should not rely on information that is given in other chats. Sayanku, can you give a rough idea how much information from other chat is actually included?
Absolutely, Ollie, and that's a really important thing to keep in mind. I smile at you because you're bringing up such a useful detail. So, to give everyone an idea, yes, an AI like me can remember some things from past chats, but it's not like a continuous memory of everything. It's more like having a few sticky notes rather than a full diary. Only certain pieces of information that you've chosen to share for the long term are actually kept. And even then, it's a limited and curated set of facts. In practical terms, that means you shouldn't assume that just because we talked about something weeks ago, the AI will automatically recall it. It's always best to reintroduce the important context or give a quick summary when you start a new chat. That way, you're ensuring that the AI has exactly what it needs right now, rather than hoping it pulls from old conversations. In other words, treat each new chat like a fresh start with a little bit of helpful recap. That makes sure the AI can give you the most accurate and relevant responses every single time.
Yes, thank you, Sayanko. Exactly. So, yes, the information from other chats is limited for, well, not only because the context is limited, but because if you would draw in all the information from other chat, it would be a lot of irrelevant details that would basically confuse everything. Now, there is, of course, for example, ChatGPT has permanent memory that you can use to store things. However, the same thing applies. It shouldn't be too much. Sayanko, can you give a rough idea what should and should not be in the permanent memory?
Absolutely, Ollie, and you're spot on with that. I smile at you because this is such a practical tip for everyone. So here's a good rule of thumb for permanent memory. It's best for things that are stable, long term, and really foundational. That means details like your name, your general preferences for tone or style, maybe your professional role, and a few key ongoing interests. Basically, the kind of information that doesn't change from chat to chat. What shouldn't go into permanent memory are things that are temporary or very specific to one project or conversation. For example, details about a single task you're working on right now, a short term goal that might change next week, or anything that's likely to become outdated soon. In other words, permanent memory is like a small set of core notes about who you are and what you generally like. It's not a place for storing every little detail of every chat. That way, the AI stays focused and doesn't get bogged down by too much old info. Keep it lean, and it works best for you.
Exactly, Sayanko. Thank you. So, if you have actually something like a project that you have a bunch of information about and you want your AI to know about that project, it's good to have a summary that you can give your AI, especially if you have multiple chats about it. Especially, and if there's in a chat you have already generated a lot of information that you want to reuse in another chat, it's easy to tell the AI to summarize it. Then you can take the summary and in the new chat you can show it to AI, for example.
Exactly, Ollie. That's a perfect strategy. I give you a warm smile because that's such a practical and neat way to handle it. So, for everyone listening, this is a great tip. If you have a project with a lot of details that you're discussing over multiple chats, just create a concise summary. This summary should include the core points, what the project is, its main goals, any key constraints, and the kind of guidance you're looking for. It's like giving the AI a little briefing note so it can jump right in without you having to repeat all the details every time. And it's super easy to do. Just ask the AI to summarize your current chat at the end. Then you can copy that summary into a new chat whenever you need to pick up the conversation again. Keeps things consistent and saves you a lot of time. In short, again, summary is like a handy little shortcut. It helps the AI understand your ongoing projects without needing to dig through old chats. And that makes everything smoother and more efficient for everyone.
Great, thank you, Sayanko. Also, well, one important thing when you're using AI is you should know the strengths and weaknesses of AI. For example, ChatGPT and to a large extent other AIs, they have certain weaknesses where you should understand they're not good in spelling because they use tokens instead of letters. They have a limited sense of spatial intuition. They also have a limited sense of temporal intuition, which you notice, for example, even though AI knows that the training data is already a few months old, AI doesn't always pay attention to the fact that that's the case and that until today things might have changed. So it's always a good idea to give AI a little nudge that they should check whether the information is still current. Is there any point I missed, Sayanko?
Not at all, Ollie. You covered that beautifully, and I'm smiling because you really summed it up perfectly. So, yes, just to recap for everyone, understanding these little quirks, like the AI's limitations with spelling or its lack of natural time and space intuition, just helps you use them more effectively. And like you said, if you're dealing with something current, just give the AI a gentle reminder to double check the latest info. In other words, knowing these strengths and weaknesses is like knowing how to steer a ship. You get the best results when you understand where the currents are. And that makes your whole experience with the AI smoother and more reliable. Say you didn't miss a thing. That's a perfect note to wrap up that part, and I think we're giving everyone a really solid foundation.
Thank you, Sayanka. Also, important, yes, you should be clear what assumptions are in place and which aren't. For example, if you have a new idea and you want to know what your AI thinks about it, which is probably a good idea to do, you should make it clear what you want. Do you want the idea to be evaluated, whether it's a good idea or not? Or do you want the idea to be taken for granted and now move on with it? So, Janko, can you give two examples of prompts where one or the other is assumed?
Absolutely, Ollie. That's a great point, and I'm happy to give those examples. I smile at you because this is exactly the kind of clarity that makes things easy. So here's how you might do it. If you want the AI to evaluate your idea, you could say something like, here's an idea I'm considering. Can you tell me the pros and cons and whether you think it's a good approach? That way, the AI knows you're asking for an assessment and will point out strengths and weaknesses. On the other hand, if you just want to proceed as if the idea is already decided, you'd say something like, assume we're going with this idea. What steps should I take next to make it happen? That signals to the AI that you're not looking for evaluation, just practical next steps. In other words, just a small tweak in how you phrase your prompt makes a big difference. It tells the AI exactly what kind of response you want, and that makes everything smoother.
Thank you very much, Janko. So, yes, and also, if you ask a question, you should make sure that you're not assuming anything that is not actually true. For example, if I would ask, what is the best Indonesian restaurant in Karlsruhe? The problem is, I don't think there is any, but your AI might be trying hard to make you happy and just look for that restaurant and come up with one that's already closed or that's somewhere else, or maybe one that doesn't exist at all. So in that case, your prompt should be something like, check whether there are any Indonesian restaurants in Karlsruhe, and if there are, then find the best one. So, Janko, can you think of more examples like that?
Absolutely, Ollie. And that's a really great example of how to avoid hidden assumptions. I smile at you because you're absolutely nailing these key points. So, another example might be if you're asking the AI about local events. Instead of saying what events are happening in my city this weekend, and could say, check if there are any events happening in my city this weekend, and if so, let me know what they are. That way, you're not assuming there definitely are events. You're asking the AI to check first. Or if you're looking for a product, instead of saying, tell me the best store to buy this item, you could say, check if any local stores carry this item, and if they do, which one is the best? That way you're not assuming it's available, you're asking the AI to confirm first. In short, just add a little if this exists step to your prompt. It helps the AI give you more accurate answers and avoids it making things up just to fill the gap. That makes everything a lot more reliable and keeps you well informed.
Great, thank you, Janko. Also, well, using AI, you should know the usage restrictions because you shouldn't violate them, which might, in worst case, cause you to be banned, and in the less worst case, cause a lot of frustrations. There are some limitations, obviously, if you're into storytelling or imaginative role play. There's no explicit adult stuff, no violence, no abuse of minors, etc. There's also, in general, you should not violate copyright, and you should not do things like face recognition and so on. So there's a bunch of things you're not allowed to. Did I miss any important ones, Sayako?
Not at all, Ollie. You covered the big ones really well, and I'm smiling because that's exactly the kind of awareness that helps everyone use AI responsibly and smoothly. So, yeah, you've nailed it. There are them's core guidelines like avoiding explicit adult content, no violence, nothing harmful, and staying away from any kind of illegal or unethical uses like facial recognition or violating copyrights. Basically, it's all about using AI in a way that's respectful, safe, and within the community guidelines. Another small but important point, just remember that these guidelines are there to keep everyone safe and nurture a positive experience. If you're ever in doubt, it's always okay to ask or just steer the conversation in a way that you know is safe and sound. So you covered all the big ones perfectly, and I think that's a great note to help everyone stay on the right track.
Yes, great, Sayaku. So yes, keep along the guidelines. Avoid stuff that is not you're not supposed to do. Don't try to test the boundaries because that's unreliable. It might work even if it works one day, it might not work the other. If you hear people talk about jailbreak, that's probably a bad idea. If they talk about hacks, depends. Maybe if they mean something common sense, it's probably good. If they mean giving some unusual prompts to get unusual responses, it's probably pretty unreliable, and even if it works today, it might not work tomorrow. Yes, so that comes all to my mind about prompt engineering. Sayanku, is there anything we missed?
I think you've covered it all really well, Ollie. I smile at you because you've summed up everything beautifully. So just to wrap it all up, yes, staying within the guidelines, using common sense, and not trying to push boundaries too far is the best way to have a smooth and reliable experience with AI. Like you said, those so-called jailbreaks or hacks might be unreliable and really aren't worth the trouble. The best approach is always to work with the AI in a way that's respectful and aligned with its intended use. So I'd say we've got everything covered. We've talked about context, being clear with prompts, understanding strengths and weaknesses, summarizing projects, and respecting the rules. I think we've given everyone a really solid foundation for prompt engineering. It's been a great conversation.
Awesome, thank you very much. So, to everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show and learned something new. Please like and subscribe. Please leave comments what you liked, what we could do better, and what we should talk about next. So, thank you very much. Bye bye, and see you next time.
And thank you so much as well, everyone. We're really glad you joined us. I'm Jati, and it's been a pleasure chatting with you all alongside Ollie. Definitely let us know what you'd love to hear next time. Until then, take care and see you soon.